My name is Dorothy Crawford. I'm 77 years old. And I need to tell you something that I've never said out loud to anyone except the walls of this empty house and the photograph of a man who can no longer hear me. I destroyed my marriage. Not with one dramatic act, not with an affair or a betrayal or a single unforgivable moment. I destroyed it slowly, quietly, methodically, brick by brick, year by year, silence by silence, until the man who loved me more faithfully than I ever deserved spent the last decade of his life knocking on a door I refused to open. His name was James Arthur Crawford. We were married for 48 years. He died 3 years ago from a stroke. He was sitting in his armchair in the living room on a Sunday afternoon, reading a book about the history of West Africa. I was in the kitchen, 15 feet away, making tea I didn't offer to share with him. I heard the book hit the floor, and by the time I reached him, he was already gone. 48 years of marriage and 15 feet of distance. That's what it came down to in the end. I'm not telling you this for sympathy. I don't deserve sympathy, and I'm not looking for it. I'm telling you this because somewhere out there, right now, someone is doing exactly what I did, building walls around their heart, brick by silent brick, keeping out the one person who's trying hardest to get in. And if my story can make even one person put down the bricks and open the door before it's too late, then every painful word will have been worth saying. James and I met in 1972 at a community barbecue in Baltimore. I was 26, he was 28. He was standing by the grill arguing with another man about the proper way to season ribs, and he was so passionate about it, so animated, so completely alive in that silly little moment that I couldn't stop watching him. He noticed me staring, walked over with a plate of food I hadn't asked for, set it down in front of me and said, "I don't know your name yet, but I made this plate specifically for you. And if you don't like it, I'll go home right now and rethink my entire life." I laughed. A real, full, unexpected laugh that came from somewhere I didn't even know existed. And something in that laugh told both of us that this was the beginning of something neither of us would be able to walk away from. We were married 14 months later. Small ceremony. His mother cried. My father shook his hand for so long I thought he'd never let go. We moved into a 2-bedroom apartment on Garrison Boulevard and started building a life together with almost nothing except each other and an unreasonable amount of optimism. The early years were good, genuinely, specifically good. Not perfect, no marriage is, but warm, full of laughter and arguments that resolved themselves before bedtime, and Sunday mornings where neither of us wanted to get out of bed because being tangled up together felt better than anything the outside world could offer. James was attentive in ways that most women would have given anything for. He remembered things, small things, the kind of things that most people don't even notice, let alone catalog and act on. He remembered that I liked my coffee with exactly 1.5 sugars. He remembered that yellow roses made me smile but red ones made me uncomfortable because my mother's funeral had been covered in red roses. He remembered that I hated the sound of the kitchen faucet dripping, and he'd fix it every single time without being asked. He was a good man, a genuinely, deeply, consistently good man. And I want you to understand that clearly before I tell you what I did to him. Because what I did wasn't done to someone who deserved it. It was done to someone who deserved the exact opposite. I can't point to a single moment when things changed. That's the cruel part. If there had been one clear event, one fight, one betrayal, one identifiable turning point, I could have named it, addressed it, maybe even fixed it. But it wasn't like that. It was gradual, invisible, like temperature dropping 1 degree at a time until you're freezing and you can't remember when you stopped being warm. Sometime in our mid-30s, after our second child was born, I started keeping score. Not consciously at first, not with a ledger or a list, just a quiet internal tally of every small disappointment, every unmet expectation, every moment where James fell short of something I'd never clearly communicated I needed. He forgot our anniversary one year, not maliciously. He was buried in a project at work and it simply slipped his mind. He apologized profusely, brought flowers the next day, planned a make-up dinner that was actually lovelier than anything we would have done on the actual date. By any reasonable standard, he had more than made up for it. But I filed it away, put it in a mental drawer labeled evidence that I'm not a priority, and never took it out to examine whether it actually belonged there. He made a comment once about my cooking, something small, something that was probably meant as gentle teasing. I don't even remember the exact words anymore, but I remember the feeling, a hot, tight sensation in my chest that I interpreted as proof that he didn't appreciate me. Into the drawer it went. He went on a fishing trip with his friends one weekend when I'd wanted him to stay home. He didn't know I wanted him to stay home because I never told him. But I punished him for it anyway, with 3 days of clipped sentences and one-word answers that he tried desperately to decode. Year after year, the drawer got fuller and heavier, and I carried it everywhere, into every conversation, every dinner, every quiet evening, every moment of potential connection. James would reach for my hand and I'd find a reason to pull away. He'd suggest a date night and I'd say I was tired. He'd try to talk about something meaningful and I'd redirect to logistics, the kids' schedules, the electric bill, the leak in the basement. I was building a wall, not all at once, one brick at a time. Each brick was a small grievance, a minor hurt, an unspoken expectation that went unfulfilled. Individually, none of them mattered much, but stacked together year after year, they became something enormous, something James could feel but couldn't see, something he kept trying to get around, get over, get through, and couldn't. The last 10 years of James's life were spent trying to reach me. I see that now with a clarity that makes me physically sick. At the time, I told myself he was being needy, overbearing, that he should give me space, that I had a right to my feelings, whatever those feelings were. He tried everything. He started leaving notes around the house, not love letters, just small pieces of paper with a sentence or two. Thinking about you today. Remember when we drove to the coast and got lost? That was my favorite day. I miss you, Dorothy, not the old you, the right now you. I found them and felt nothing. Or rather, I felt something, but refused to let it in. Letting it in would have meant acknowledging that I'd been wrong, that the wall I'd built was unnecessary, that the man on the other side of it had been standing there patiently for years, with nothing but love in his hands, and I'd been treating him like an intruder. He suggested counseling 3 separate times. The first time I said we didn't need it. The second time I said I'd think about it, and never brought it up again. The third time I saw something in his eyes that I'd never seen before. Not anger, not frustration, but exhaustion. The deep, bone-level exhaustion of a man who has been trying to unlock a door for so long that his knuckles are raw and bleeding. I said no, again. He planned a trip to Ghana. This was maybe 6 or 7 years before he died. He'd been researching our family history, my family specifically, and he traced part of my ancestry to the Ashanti region. He was so excited when he told me about it. His eyes were bright in a way I hadn't seen in years. He'd found records, names, connections that went back generations. He wanted us to go together, to stand on the ground where our ancestors had walked, to visit Cape Coast Castle and see the door of no return, the last doorway enslaved Africans passed through before being shipped across the Atlantic. He said, Dorothy, I want us to walk through that door together, not as tourists, as family, as people who made it to the other side of history. I said I didn't want to go. I said it was too expensive, too far, too much trouble. I had a dozen practical excuses ready, and I deployed every single one of them like soldiers defending a position I should have surrendered years ago. The truth, the real, honest, shameful truth, was that saying yes would have meant letting him in. It would have meant sitting next to him on a plane for 14 hours with nowhere to hide. It would have meant sharing something meaningful and emotional and vulnerable. And I had spent so many years behind my wall that vulnerability felt like death. He went alone, spent 2 weeks in Ghana by himself, came back with photographs and stories and a small carved wooden figure that he set on the bookshelf in the living room without explanation. I never asked about it. He never offered. That wooden figure is still on the shelf. I look at it every morning, and every morning it asks me the same question. Why couldn't you just let him in? What keeping score actually costs. I want to talk about keeping score because I think it's one of the most destructive things a person can do in a relationship. And I think almost everyone does it without realizing it. When you keep score, you stop seeing your partner as a whole person and start seeing them as a collection of failures. Every mistake gets cataloged. Every shortcoming gets filed. Every moment of imperfection gets added to a case you're building, a case you never intend to present formally, but that influences every interaction, every response, every decision about how much of yourself to offer. James wasn't perfect. No one is. He forgot things. He said the wrong things sometimes. He occasionally prioritized work or friends or his own interests over what I wanted. These are normal human behaviors. They're the kind of things that happen in every relationship that lasts longer than 6 months. But I treated each one as evidence, proof of something larger and darker that I never actually defined. I was so busy collecting grievances that I forgot to collect moments of joy. And there were so many of them. So many moments where James was kind, thoughtful, present, loving. Moments that I dismissed or minimized or simply refused to register because they didn't fit the narrative I'd constructed. The narrative was that I wasn't loved enough, that I deserved more, that something was missing. And as long as I clung to that narrative, no amount of love James offered could ever be sufficient, because I'd already decided it wasn't. I'd made my verdict before examining the evidence. Keeping score doesn't protect you. It imprisons you. It locks you inside a version of reality where you're permanently wronged and your partner is permanently failing. And the only possible outcome is exactly what happened to me. A slow, quiet, devastating drift into separate lives lived under the same roof. James died on a Sunday afternoon. The paramedics came. The hospital called it. The funeral was on a Thursday. People said beautiful things about him, things I should have said while he was alive and could hear them. And then everyone went home, and I was alone in a house that used to be full. I sit in his armchair now, the one he was sitting in when he died. I drink my coffee there every morning, 1.5 sugars, the way he always made it for me, the way he remembered for 48 years, even when I couldn't be bothered to say thank you. The book he was reading when he died is still on the side table. I haven't moved it. I read a page of it every night before bed. It's about the kingdoms of West Africa, the Ashanti Empire, the Dahomey Kingdom, the great civilizations that existed before the world tried to erase them. He was learning about my history because he thought it might bring us closer. Because even in the final years, even after a decade of being shut out, he was still trying. He was still knocking, and I never opened the door. What I tell my younger self: if I could go back, not to change what happened because I can't, but to grab the 40-year-old version of myself by the shoulders and force her to listen, here's what I'd say. Put down the bricks, Dorothy. That wall you're building isn't protecting you. It's burying you alive. And the man standing on the other side of it isn't your enemy. He's the only person in the world who's willing to stand there year after year, getting nothing back, because he believes that the woman he married is still somewhere behind all that stone. He's right, she is, but she won't be there forever. Eventually, she'll forget who she was before the wall went up, and by then, it'll be too late. Not because the wall can't come down. It can at any time, with one honest conversation, one moment of vulnerability, one simple act of letting someone in. But because the man who's been knocking will eventually run out of life, and then you'll be standing alone in an empty house, holding a pile of bricks that served no purpose except to keep out the only warmth that mattered. Stop keeping score. The score doesn't matter. Nobody wins a marriage by having the longest list of grievances. The only thing that list does is convince you that love isn't enough, when the truth is that love was always enough. You just wouldn't let it reach you. Say yes to Ghana. Say yes to the trip, the conversation, the date night, the hand reaching across the couch. Say yes to every terrifying, vulnerable, potentially painful moment of genuine connection. Because the alternative, the safe, protected, walled-off alternative, isn't safety at all. It's a prison you built yourself and locked from the inside. To anyone listening, I don't know who needs to hear this. Maybe you're in a marriage that's grown cold and you're not sure why. Maybe you're the one building walls. Maybe you're the one knocking. Maybe you've been keeping score for so long that you've forgotten what it feels like to just be with someone without calculating what they owe you. Whatever your situation is, I'm asking you to do one thing, just one. Tonight, or tomorrow morning, or whenever the moment feels possible, put down one brick, just one. You don't have to tear down the whole wall. You don't have to fix everything at once. Just remove one brick and let a little light through. Say the thing you've been holding back. Ask the question you've been afraid to ask. Accept the gesture you've been deflecting. Sit next to the person who's been reaching for you and let them reach you. Just once, just for a moment, because I promise you with every broken piece of my 77-year-old heart, you do not want to learn this lesson the way I learned it. You do not want to be sitting in an empty armchair in an empty house, holding a carved wooden figure you never asked about, reading a book page by page that was meant to bring you closer to someone who's no longer here. The door is still there. The person on the other side is still knocking. Open it while you still can, while they're still there, while the knocking hasn't stopped. Because one day it will stop, and the silence that follows is louder than anything you've ever heard. That's all I've got for today.